Okay, so you run into an old friend you haven't seen in, say, about a year. And in the course of conversation, she asks you if you're still going to church, and you say yes. So she asks you how it's going. Wow, where do you begin? Well, this is The Vine, Year 2. You start by telling her about a few of the series at The Vine, like the Book of Love and Ultimate Fighters. Remember the guy that thought he was a knight during the Kingdom series? Or Nanny McFrugal during Money 911? She really cleared some things up for us. What about the Why the Vine series, or the one on parenting called Apple of My Eye? Then you remember The Big Give. That was a series and a challenge. You tell your friend how the Vine gave $500 to all the cluster groups and told them to go out and use it to make more money to help the homeless and the needy kids in our community. The people of the Vine had golf tournaments and concerts and raised over an additional $7,500. Your friend is like, that's a lot of money. And you're like, that's nothing. At Christmas, the Vine asked people to have a merry little Christmas, to minimize different parts of their lives, to maximize what God wanted them to do. That's when the Vine got involved with the garden. In December, the Vine took a charter bus full of volunteers to the garden. It's a shelter for homeless women and their children in Atlanta. The people of the Vine provided 48 women and 17 children with Christmas gifts and donated all the food that fed the 350 plus people that came to the Christmas concert at the garden that night. Then about a month later, 2 women from the Vine organized basic medical screenings and makeovers for the women and children of the garden. But there's one more thing that is amazing about the relationship between the garden and the Vine. Right now, there are 2 children from the garden that are in the process of being adopted by members of the Vine. How incredible is that? And just when your friend's jaw is starting to drop, you tell her about Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. How on Christmas Eve, the Vine had its largest attendance to date, with over 500 people coming to the Christmas Eve candlelight services at Chateau Lawn. And how on Christmas Day, 50 people went downtown Atlanta to give away 300 coats, 100 scarves, and over 250 lunches. Matter of fact, one guy found out about it online and drove all the way from Florida to help out and donate 50 meals for the homeless on Christmas Day. Your friend says, a guy drove up here from Florida? Yeah, a guy drove up here from Florida. Then you blurt out the word, kidzu. Your friend is obviously confused, so you say, you have kids. I should tell you about kidzu. You start by telling her about how, when you drop your kids off, you scan your fingerprint. That's some high-tech security. Those kids are safe. Then they go into their own rooms for each of the age groups and have a blast with creative games and singing and art projects. One time, they gave every kid a box from Africa to take home and find a way with their family to save $37 in it and bring it back for kids in Africa. Those kids raised over $600, and the rest of the church kicked in to make it an even $1,500. And because your friend has a kid in 8th grade, you start to tell her about High Def. That's the name of the ministry for 6th through 12th graders. In the past year, High Def has grown to about 50 students coming every Sunday night, and they had 80 students go on retreats. That's more than twice as many as the year before. Some of the students from High Def even started prayer groups that meet at 2 of the local high schools before school starts in the morning. Students praying for their peers? Maybe that's why in the past year, 12 teenagers have accepted Jesus into their lives, and their lives will never be the same. Your friend says, wow, Vine seems to be a great place for kids. You say, yeah, and there's babies everywhere too. We actually think there's something in the water. And then you go on to tell her about cluster groups. That's what the Vine calls small groups. Almost 60% of the Vine's weekly attendance is in a cluster group, and that's where real discipleship happens. But okay, sometimes discipleship is kind of abstract, so you tell her to think of it like this. If your relationship with God is like baking a cake, Sunday morning is only the icing on top of that cake. You put the ingredients together throughout the week, and a cluster group is one place to get some of those ingredients to become a better pastry chef. At this point, she says, I really kind of want some cake now. And you say, yeah, cake sounds good. But before you go, and then you tell her just a few more things you find amazing about the Vine. Like how the Vine offers Financial Peace University classes so people in the church and in the community can learn how to get out of debt and honor God with their finances. Or how the Vine supports a missionary in Africa and sent over $5,000 to her in the last year, and how they donated $1,000 for nets to prevent malaria for people in Africa. And then there's a time the Vine used $2,000 to buy down the price of gas so people could fill their tanks for less. Or how the Vine has given away $10,000 for different needs right here in the community. including $2,500 to another church so they could move into a larger facility, and how all in all, the Vine has donated and used more than $32,000 for missions and local ministries in the past 12 months. But the biggest thing, the most important thing, it isn't that the Vine is up to 87 members, or that they have an average attendance of nearly 250, or even that just over 50% of the adults that attend regularly serve in some way every week at the Vine. No, the most important thing that happened at the Vine this past year is that 16 people were baptized into the family of God, and 30 people accepted salvation through Jesus Christ. You tell your friend, of all the stuff I just told you, that is the most incredible. Your friend says, how do you remember all this stuff? And you tell her, if you come to the Vine for the next year, it will be a year that you will never forget. And that is the Vine Year 2 in plain English.